You're listening to Hashtag Impact, a podcast about stuff that matters. I am Regina Larco, your host. And if you pressed play here today because you want to be inspired, then you are in the right place. But before we start, I want to say a huge thanks. This podcast would not be possible without the support of collaborators that share our passion for making an impact in the world. Let me tell you about one of them. Our sponsor, The Impact Competition, based out of Chicago, funds case competitions that provide a financial incentive for teams of students to brainstorm effective solutions for the most pressing issues affecting the communities they live in. Traditional case competitions offer a theoretical proposal that students are tasked with solving. However, the Impact Competition aims to solve local, real-world issues and provides the funding for the students to see their solution in action. Like when Indiana University's Kelley School of Business partnered with local nonprofit Habitat for Humanity of Monroe County. The students came up with an innovative housing solution to help Habitat's mission. And you will hear all about how this exact case actually worked, as well as how the Impact Competition got started in the first place in our upcoming episode. I'm so excited to share it with you all. In the meantime, you can head over to impactcompetition.org to find out more. Now on to today's guest. Sit back and meet someone very special who is, just like us here at Hashtag Impact, in the business to inspire. Today, you meet Veslemøy Klavenes Berge, a petroleum geophysicist gone green. She is in the business to inspire people to leverage the work they do so it gives them joy and at the same time helps solve our world's most pressing challenges. Veslemøy works on a portfolio of projects, including B Corp consulting, local sustainability projects, sustainable football, her super awesome podcast Stories for the Future, and helping people jumpstart their impact careers. She loves testing and trying out new things, and one of the biggest lessons she wants to teach her two children is that it is okay to fail. Welcome to Hashtag Impact, dear Veslemøy.
Oh, thank you so much, Regina, and thank you for a fantastic introduction.
We're not going to tell the listeners the secret of that now, of that introduction, are we? Our little secret. And you know what I love about that, actually? I want to point out that last bit I said there, that thing you want to teach your kids about failing and that it's okay to fail. And I was just wondering, because, you know, I totally agree with you. I'm with you on that. But have you always felt that way? How do you feel about failing?
Yeah, no, I have not always felt like that. So it was really interesting. Today I have this journal and it has these small like quotes or things every day. And today it was actually, what career advice would you tell your 16-year-old self? And that would be that. Because I didn't learn this or start practicing this before I was over 40, I would say. So because it's not something that we are taught, I think, at least not when I was younger, that it is okay to fail. And you have to be okay with failing if you want to explore different directions. And that is something I have found so much joy in the last few years, trying out new things, testing a direction, and not. I had a guest on my podcast that said, even though you tell people, oh, now I'm going to do this and I'm going to work on that project, and then maybe it fails, don't feel bad about it. It's not that you commit to anything for anybody else than yourself. So we're too afraid to kind of lose face, I think. And getting away from that is so freeing. So I'm not completely there yet, but working on it all the time.
Yeah. And here in our ongoing season 5, where we focus on the sustainable development goals, when I'm looking at your portfolio career, of course, there is many goals that you touch upon with your different projects. But how does it all, when you're looking at your portfolio of things that you're working on today, how does it for you all fit together?
Yeah, I see what you mean. And that is, of course, also the challenge all the time, to kind of keep this, I call it a green thread through all the projects, so that they kind of overlap and feed into each other. So I would say, and when it comes to the SDGs, I say that 17 it's kind of the overarching thing, because we have to collaborate in order to solve them. But also for me, I guess that climate change and SDG number 13 is the one that I feel like the most urgency towards. So everything related to that in some way. And as you say yourself in some of your previous episodes, they're so interconnected. You can't solve one and not think about the rest. So, but climate change, maybe based on my background, also as a geophysicist, that is kind of it's very interesting to me as well. But I feel the urgency so clearly, and so that is maybe something that is visible in all my projects. But I will also say that every time that I can find some way to use inspiration, and because I like the biggest challenge we have today, I think, is that people become complacent, or like apathy is also the thing. So, and in order to combat that, we need that first spark. And inspiration has kind of become this word that I have maybe swept a little bit under the carpet, because it's a little bit, I don't know, pink, or I don't know how to describe it, but a bit like fluffy, or, oh, you want to inspire people. But actually it is so important, because if you don't get that first spark, you don't get to do the rest. So you need that first spark. So in all my projects, I'm looking for ways that I can inspire people to want to work on the different projects or the different issues that we have. So maybe that is the green thread in a way.
I love that you call it green thread. Yeah. That's brilliant. I love that. And that spark, can you pinpoint to your spark?
Yes.
Your first spark?
Yes, very, very clearly. And I would say I have 3 different sparks, and I call them coconut moments, because it's like this, boink, you get a coconut in your head and suddenly realize something.
Like so aha moment.
Aha moment, yes.
Aha moment.
Yeah. So
is that what you say in Norway?
Yeah,
the coconut. Yeah.
No, yeah. You don't say a coconut moment in Norway, but I found that term somewhere, and I've used it ever since. Yeah. So the first one was so I lost my job as a geophysicist back in 2016, because of like downturn in the oil industry, and I was laid off, downsizing in the company. And I was, for a long time, desperately trying to get back to that, because that was what I knew and what I thought I had to do. And then I realized, okay, there's no work for me at the moment, so I need to think differently. So I did some research. I realized that, okay, there's demand for water management. So I started coursing myself on water management, because I thought, okay, if I teach myself that, then I can get something to do, perhaps. So I jumped into all these different teaching platforms and did the courses, and I was so bored. It was so boring. And then suddenly I was sitting there doing some research, and I fell into this talk on TED called How to Find Work You Love, by a guy called Scott Dinsmore. And listening to him and his story about how he also had that experience of like working with something that he wanted to just like destroy something, he said, or he was so bored, and he didn't see the meaning in his work. And then I just realized that, I need to find something that I actually enjoy in order to do my best, because you don't do your best work if you don't enjoy what you do. So that was the first spark. And then I had another one related to the refugee crisis, which was on at the moment, and realizing that all these refugees and the families trying to flee in small boats, it wasn't me that was in a bad place. I mean, I was without a job, but there were so many people suffering in the world. So then I realized, okay, I need to do something that matters. So then I started my company and started working with corporate social responsibility at the start. So that was the second spark. And then I would say the last spark was in this very hot and dry summer of 2018, when I started to read up on climate change, and just, it was kind of, I don't know, ripping off a Band-Aid, or starting to, looking into the issues that I had kind of just swept under the rug for a long time. And when I had started to read up, I couldn't unlearn it again. So and that was a spark in a kind of a like this urgency, sense of urgency way. But I had already started listening to so many podcasts and like resources of inspiration from people doing great work. And your podcast, for instance, like how that listening to other people who had actually started doing something, and there's so many great projects out there. So that inspired me to continue in that direction.
Mm-hmm. And now you are sharing these stories on your podcast as well, right? Of people that inspire you. And I actually have a little quote for you there. Are you ready for this one?
Yes.
Ooh. So, based on what's happening, I'm quoting here, based on what's happening in the world today, my view of the future can lean to the negative, which is why I appreciate Stories for the Future, a podcast which is focused on ideas and initiatives from brilliant thinkers who are working to ensure our future is bright. If you're looking for insightful inspiration, look no further. Ooh. So this is someone who's listening to your podcast, who left that review. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel very, very good. So that is that is, yourself, that is what makes you go on, the positive feedback you get from your listeners. Oh, it means so much.
The people, I guess, that we want to address, or the people that we speak to on the podcast, but the people that we know are listening out there, I think we have a very, very similar goal there with that inspiration, right? Even though the term is maybe overused, and maybe then that's why it can maybe sometimes to some people become hollow, or they question like, who can actually be inspired, or can I be inspired, or what does that even mean? But the question I want to ask you is, does it matter? When you're looking at the SDG goals, I learned something super important from you, actually. Opened my eyes. Thank you for that. Because you shared with me beforehand that the goals are great to kind of have this, like a set of a certain structure that governments and institutions and corporates can like follow. But what is with the individuals? Where do they fit in this? And you kind of opened my eyes to it that actually, when you're looking at all these list of long goals and targets, it makes it maybe not that inclusive for individuals to find their place in them.
Yeah, and you're so right. And the sentence I often say in my podcast is that I'm exploring and kind of searching for the best combination of a good life, a very interesting job on a happy planet. And I want to make people see that everybody is needed and that everybody can make a difference. So I have this great example, I think. And I often use this type of job as an example in order to highlight that we don't all have to become, I don't know, climate scientists or entrepreneurs with big startups or things like that. And that is my hairdresser. And there's something a lot of people say these days, that every job is a climate job. And I really agree. Because the way that, so this hairdresser is in my neighbor city. And it's not always that I have the time to go to her, but I try as often as possible. And it's called Eco Hair. So she has this like very ecologic, like eco-friendly way of running her salon. So, and she uses less chemicals. She reads up and knows all the ingredients in the shampoos she's selling. She does all these things to make it better. And that is really a huge impact, just by, and she knows so much. So every time I'm there, I'm learning so much about difference, and she puts less chemicals into me. I mean, when I'm there, I feel better because it's not that harmful for my skin or my scalp or my hair and my blood. So that's what I'm looking for, how to kind of unlock. I have on I've just released my newest website, and I wrote there unlocking people's superpowers, because we all have them. We all have something, which is, it could be a soft skill. It could be that you're a really good listener, that you are very optimistic, that you're really structured. It could be anything, or that you're a good athlete. You could spread awareness on the football field. We all have something. And if people could kind of unlock their own superpower, and then the next step is to find out, okay, how can you, or where and how can I use this superpower in order to make the biggest impact for a better future? And then at the same time that this is something that you really enjoy, then we have the gold, I think. So for people to look into the SDGs and find inspiration from that, I think it's a little bit hard. So I would kind of go at it from the different angle for people to. So when I share stories on my podcast, and the same as you do, I want to show people that, oh, here we have this woman. She's creating a really good life for herself through running a really sustainable hairdresser salon. But she's also having this great life. She's a climber, and she has this van. I haven't had her on the podcast, but maybe I should. She has this van, and she drives around in Norway and climbs mountains. So, and that can inspire people. Oh, you can actually have a really good life and make a huge difference with your strengths and your skills. So that's what I'm always searching for.
And you are an example for that as well. And oh my goodness, I want to meet your hairdresser.
Yeah.
You should. She's awesome.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. But then how about you? Do you feel, because what I notice with the people I interview on my podcast, often I see that, like the way you just talked about this woman, and you recognize it and you say it's amazing. She's doing that. But often I feel then the people themselves, they make it much smaller.
Yes.
They're like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's not an impact. That doesn't mean anything. I didn't make a big contribution here. How do you feel about the contributions that you make? Do you give yourself credit for all the work that you do?
Probably not. Because, we often, it's not, you probably know this yourself, that it's not easy it's so many joys around working for myself, but it's not easy either. You have this, all the parts around to be financially sustainable and all that. And we still often measure success in money, So often you think, oh no, I haven't I haven't reached all my goals yet, and people don't know about me. And well, yeah, do I actually make a difference? And I think we make ourselves smaller. I think we all do that most of the time. Most people do that. So no, probably not. I guess that is the answer to your question. And that is when I just have to. I remember once you told me that you should write down the positive comments that people make around your podcast, for instance, that just in the passing, just, oh, I like that episode or something like that, just to remember it and to celebrate it. So I try to do that, and that helps.
I also discovered someone because of you. Today is a huge thank you. Thank you to you, Veslemøy, because I had not heard about Beth Kampton yet.
Yes.
But she is someone who inspires you greatly.
Oh,
I learned.
Yeah.
So of course I wanted to check her out.
Yeah.
Who is this woman?
Yes.
I need to find out. And then I discovered that she also has this lovely podcast. Yes. And there was one, and I started listening, and there was one episode that really resonated with me, where she says that to find what you truly want to say, what it is that you carry in your heart that you want the world to hear, it needs for us to quiet it down. And of course that's, it's obvious. Yeah. But then when she said it and the way she said it and how she framed it as quieting down the noise of the world to hear what really matters to us inside, to be able to actually hear it, you know what it made me remember? What you shared on your podcast as well in these like in between episodes where you sometimes also give a little bit of what is happening in your own life, who inspires you, what happened to you. And there was this time when you lost your hearing.
Yeah.
And that really, I get like goosebumps just saying that, because then the way you talked about that experience, how it was for you when the world actually became literally quiet, was very, it was just very touching for me to hear you share it so openly as well. Yeah. So how does quiet resonate with you?
So that is quiet. Then that word gets two very different meanings for me, because when it comes to what Beth Kampton is talking about, that resonates so much with me as well, because we're so bombarded by everything all the time, social media, and I feel that when I'm posting something that, is this okay? Is this, you always kind of have to check with the world around. Is this something that is, So how to quiet down in order to hear yourself think and to like get your own original thoughts. It's really important. And Beth is she's an author, and if you're interested in writing, she's amazing. But that other period when it was just a normal cold leading to ear infection. And then suddenly one morning I woke up and I couldn't hear almost anything. I would say maybe I had 20% left or something of my hearing. So I couldn't hear my boys talking to me if they were standing right in front of me. And that was so scary. It was in spring and I couldn't hear the birds outside. The doorbell, television could forget about that. So it was a really scary experience. And it made me, I had to go back to the feeling over and over again in order not to forget that feeling, because I think it's so important to remember. It made me appreciate sound so much. And I re-listened to your TED talk actually at that time, because you talk about the magic of listening, isn't it? And how we take that for granted, that we can actually hear other people talk to us, and how your ability to communicate just disappears when you can't hear. So that kind of silence was kind of claustrophobic to me. I panicked a bit, and my doctor said, it's going to be temporary, it's going to get back. But I really didn't believe that the first week, I think, and it took quite a long time before it was okay again. So yeah, and it also made me aware, coming back to the SDGs and like the feeling of urgency. It made me realize that in order to really understand somebody else's situation, like people with hearing disabilities, you actually have to be in their shoes. So of course I felt sorry for people who can't hear, but I haven't really understood how it is. So when we look at like climate disasters and like the flooding in Pakistan and different events, we think it's really bad, but I think that is some parts of the reason why we just keep going with our lives, is that we aren't there, we aren't in their shoes. So And that is the reason why I think we have to go about it from a different angle. We have to ignite that spark in people and let them see that, oh, there's so many opportunities to do stuff here and to create something good out of the situation.
And then there is no one size fits all, and everyone can find their own way, right? It's very individual.
Exactly.
Yeah, what inspires me might not inspire you. But I know for sure there will be inspiring stories for our listeners here at #Impact to dive in over at your podcast. So I really want to encourage you now, you listener, I'm talking to you, to right away head over to Veslemøy's beautiful podcast to, scroll through. You're up to like 4 seasons.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So there is for sure a topic in there that will ignite your spark. Yeah. Where can people do that?
So now I think the best way to go into the podcast is through my website, bycause.co. So that's bycause with a Y. And there you can go into the podcast from there.
Wonderful. And of course, I will put the link right there in the show notes for you to easily click on it and find it. But Veslemøy, you know it. I won't let you go until you go through the quick fire round with me. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Making an impact means.
Using your strengths and your skills and your experience in order to create a better future for coming generations.
Who inspires you in the way they are tackling the Sustainable Development Goals?
This is very different from day to day, I have to say. But just today, I was very inspired by, I would call him my colleague, Al Gore, because I'm a climate reality leader. So Al Gore started this climate reality project years ago. And I watched his speech at the COP27. And he fascinates me. And his way of like being really clear, but still keeping the hope, that inspires me.
And what could everyone do right now, our super amazing listeners, to make the world a better place?
Seek inspiration, I would say, and try to figure out what is it that you really, where could you really use what you enjoy doing in a good way. And that could be everything from volunteering to changing your job. But right away, just go out there, go into TED.com or something like that. Look for something that inspires you and see if it can trigger a spark.
And you find that on Veslemøy's podcast, of course, as well. She's just too modest.
And on #impact as well, I would say.
Yes, of course, so much inspiration. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Veslemøy. I love to feature these stories because you are just an example for that. And I really encourage everyone to get to know you better by connecting with you and following your socials and finding you on your podcast, because that's what keeps me going. I get to have these amazing conversations with people like you that I know I'm not the only dreamer, and I'm not gonna start singing singing the song now that inspires me, but it feels really nice to not feel alone in this. So thank you for that, Veslemøy.
Oh, thank you, Regina. And I have to add that if it hasn't been for you, back in the days, I would never have started my podcast. And I'm absolutely 100% certain of that. So you're the reason. So thank you.
That makes me so happy. Seek inspiration. That's what Veslemøy just encouraged us to do. Yes, can we all do that, please? Coming up on our podcast next time, you will hear the story behind the impact competition. I promise you there will be something in there for you that will change how you look at making your own impact. And if you're one of our lucky newsletter subscribers, yay, are you on there yet on that newsletter? Yeah. If yes, then you will get the juicy behind the scenes details we don't share anywhere else. If you want in on that newsletter, you can just head over to #impact.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for listening today. I talk to you soon. Bye.